The year was 1990, yet the shadows cast by the past stretched long over Willow Hill, a secluded wooded area nestled within my small hometown. Tales of the supernatural had a way of curling around the branches like fog, weaving through the trees and whispering secrets to those who dared to listen. My family had their own chilling account, one that had been passed down through 3 generations of children. It began with a story my uncle told, a tale of dread that left me sleepless at night. In those days, my grandparents had purchased a property that loomed ominously at the top of a hill, where 2 houses stood, a dilapidated log cabin and a decrepit concrete cottage, both seemingly out of place amid the nature that surrounded them. My grandparents moved into the log cabin, the choice seeming innocent at first, oblivious to the darkness that lurked within those walls. The cottage, left vacant, became a canvas for local children's imaginations, a haunted house where monsters roamed freely. It was winter when the story unfolded, the air biting with frost and the ground blanketed in a thick layer of snow. My uncle, then 18, slept on the couch in the living room, the only source of warmth against the chill of the house. He awoke one dreadful morning, the kind of morning when the world feels frozen in time, and peered out the window. What he saw made his heart race and his blood run cold. There, standing in the snow, was a little girl. She was not like the other children from the neighborhood. She belonged to another era entirely. Dressed in a tattered Victorian gown that flared around her ankles, she stood still as a statue, her pale face and dark hair contrasting sharply with the bright white of the snow. My uncle was transfixed, caught in her empty gaze that seemed to pierce through the glass and straight into his soul. There was no warmth in her eyes, no hint of life, only an unyielding stare that sent chills down his spine. My grandmother had gone to work, and my grandfather slept soundly in their bedroom. Confusion morphed into fear as my uncle felt an unshakable urge to understand what he was witnessing. He rushed to his father, who, groggy and unaware of the horrors lurking outside, instructed him to go out and check on the girl. "Maybe she needs help," he said, dismissing my uncle's growing apprehension. With trepidation, my uncle donned his snow boots and stepped out into the cold, hoping to find a wayward child who had lost her way. But as he made his way down the porch steps, the girl vanished. Panic rose within him as he searched the area frantically, but only a set of small footprints remained, leading from where she had stood directly to the front door of the vacant cottage. He followed the prints, heart pounding in his chest, and reached the door. It was ajar, creaking ominously as he pushed it open. The interior was shrouded in darkness, cobwebs festooning the corners, shadows dancing mockingly in the corners of his vision. A shiver ran down his spine, the feeling of being watched clawing at his sanity. He stepped inside, but the girl was nowhere to be found. Bewildered and shaken, he returned to the log cabin, hoping the warmth of the living room would wash away the chill that had settled in his bones. But the image of the girl lingered, an apparition burned into his mind. Days turned into weeks, and weeks into years, and while he eventually forgot the incident, the shadow of that icy encounter loomed large over our family. As time went on, my parents returned from my father's military service and moved into the concrete cottage that had once stood vacant. I was brought home from the hospital there, the house feeling strange from the very beginning. Shadows seemed to twist and turn in the corners of my vision, and an unsettling chill gripped the air. Growing up in a household of homeschooled children, my sleep schedule often danced erratically between night and day. I spent countless nights awake, sitting in front of the computer that faced the very door where my uncle had seen the ghostly girl. The air would grow cold, prickling against my skin, and I would shiver as whispers seemed to echo around me. I could swear I heard laughter, a chorus of children playing, yet I knew my brothers and I were the only ones in the house. My mother had her own unsettling experiences. She often claimed to hear laughter echoing from the backyard, even when my brothers and I were absent. One evening, she swore she saw a grotesque figure, a half-human, half-dog creature, staring back at her from the tree-line. Its eyes glowed like two fiery coals, leaving her paralyzed with fear. I could sense that something was off, but the horrors of that hillside went beyond mere shadows. When I finally took a photo of the front door for the sake of nostalgia, I was greeted with a chilling sight. There, captured within the frame, was the faint outline of a young girl standing just beyond the threshold. My heart raced as I stared at the photo, my blood turning to ice. I had seen her. The little girl my uncle had described. A ghostly figure trapped within the frame, forever haunting my memories. But it was not only me who witnessed the bizarre happenings. My brothers, too, had encounters with shadow figures, dark, amorphous shapes that flitted just out of sight. My parents dismissed our fears, attributing them to childish imagination, but deep down, I sensed that they shared our unease. Whispers of the supernatural began to circulate in the town, some claiming the hill was cursed. My uncle spoke of a plane crash that had occurred in the woods behind our homes, though my research yielded nothing concrete. Others told tales of ancient Native American burial grounds, of rituals long forgotten, and of dark entities that roamed the land. The more I learned, the more I felt a dark cloud looming over us. We eventually moved out of the cottage, seeking solace in a new neighborhood, but my grandparents remained behind. They continued to own the property, letting nature reclaim the land while we visited occasionally. Each time we returned to Willow Hill, I felt an insatiable pull to uncover the secrets buried within the decaying walls of the homes. In the years that followed, vines and ivy crept up the sides of the cabin and cottage, enveloping them like a shroud. They became a forgotten relic of our family's history, and I often wondered if the girl was still out there, watching, waiting. Then, within a span of a few weeks, tragedy struck. The houses burned to the ground in separate, mysterious fires. The flames consumed them, leaving behind only charred remnants and acrid smoke. Speculation swirled around the town. Was it arson? Were the fires set by squatters seeking refuge? Or was it the malevolent spirit of the girl seeking vengeance for being forgotten? No answers came, only an echoing silence that followed us like a shadow. Last summer, my family organized a picnic atop the hill, a bittersweet reunion with the remnants of our past. I was eager to see what remained of the place that had haunted my childhood, yet as we gathered among the ashes, an overwhelming sense of dread washed over me. I felt eyes upon me, the sensation of being watched creeping along my spine like icy fingers. Was it the ghostly girl, or something far more sinister lurking in the shadows? As we picnicked on the hill, the wind rustled through the trees, whispering secrets I could not decipher. I wandered away from my family, drawn to the area where the cottage had once stood. The ground was scorched, the charred remains telling stories of a violent end. I knelt among the ashes, feeling a strange connection to the place that had once filled my nights with terror. I closed my eyes, letting the chill of the air seep into my bones. Suddenly, a shiver raced through me, a flicker of movement catching my eye. Turning quickly, I caught a glimpse of a figure darting behind the remnants of the cabin. My heart raced as I followed, my breath quickening. I pushed through the overgrown brush, my pulse pounding in my ears, adrenaline coursing through my veins. "Hello?" I called, my voice echoing through the trees. Silence enveloped me, thick and suffocating. But as I moved closer to the clearing, I could see her, a small figure in a tattered dress, standing at the edge of the woods, staring directly at me. "Who are you?" I asked, my voice trembling with a mix of fear and curiosity. But she did not respond. She merely pointed towards the ground at my feet, her gaze unwavering. I glanced down and gasped. Buried beneath the leaves was a rusted, ornate locket, its surface etched with intricate designs. My fingers trembled as I reached for it, the weight of the object heavy with untold stories. I glanced back up, but the girl was gone, leaving only a chilling breeze in her wake. I clutched the locket tightly, feeling a strange warmth radiating from it. As I opened it, I was greeted by a faded photograph of a young girl, her face eerily familiar. It was as if I were gazing into a mirror, the same dark hair and pale complexion staring back at me. A jolt of recognition surged through me. This was her, the little girl from my uncle's story. Panic seized me, and I stumbled back, the locket slipping from my fingers and clattering to the ground. The shadows seemed to stretch around me, the air thick with an unseen presence. I turned and ran, fear driving me back to my family, desperate for the safety of their presence. "Are you all right?" my mother asked, concern etched across her face. I could only nod, unable to voice the horrors I had witnessed. The picnic continued, laughter echoing among the remnants of the past, but I felt disconnected, as if I were watching from a distance, a spectator in my own life. As days passed, I became obsessed with uncovering the truth behind the locket and the girl. I delved into my family's history, poring over old documents, photographs, and anything that could shed light on the chilling events surrounding Willow Hill. The deeper I dug, the more unsettling the discoveries became. My grandmother spoke in hushed tones about a tragedy that had befallen the original owners of the cabin, a family who had vanished without a trace. Rumors swirled of dark rituals and strange occurrences that plagued the area long before my grandparents ever arrived. Whispers of the girl's spirit began to haunt my thoughts, a constant reminder that some things should remain buried. Determined to find answers, I reached out to local historians, digging through archives and old newspaper clippings. Each revelation sent chills down my spine. Disappearances, accidents, and even a mention of a cult that had once claimed the land as their own. The connection to the girl deepened, as if the echoes of her suffering reverberated through time. The night grew darker, the shadows lengthening as if they were sentient, creeping closer to me as I dug deeper into the history. I felt her presence, a guiding force that both frightened and intrigued me. I began to dream of her, visions of a twisted reality where laughter mingled with cries of despair, where shadows danced in the corners of my mind. One stormy night, as lightning illuminated the sky, I was jolted awake by a desperate cry, a voice echoing through the darkness, calling my name. I rushed to the window, heart pounding, and saw her standing at the edge of the woods, drenched in rain, her dress clinging to her small frame. Fear gripped me, but I felt an overwhelming urge to follow. I dashed outside, the storm raging around me. The wind howled, but the girl remained still, waiting for me. I approached cautiously, and as I drew nearer, I could see tears streaming down her face, a reflection of sorrow that resonated deep within my soul. "Help me," she whispered, her voice barely audible over the storm. I need you to remember." "Remember what?" I asked, breathless. The girl pointed towards the remnants of the cabin, and I felt an electric shock run through me. Memories surged, echoes of laughter, shouts of joy, and then the darkness that followed. I began to piece together the fragments of the past, the tragedy that had unfolded in the very place I stood. I followed her gaze, my heart racing as I stepped into the ruins of the cabin. Inside, the walls whispered secrets of despair and loss. I stumbled upon a hidden trapdoor, its surface covered in dust. The girl's gaze burned into me as I opened it, revealing a dark, narrow staircase leading into the abyss below. Taking a deep breath, I descended into the darkness, feeling the air grow heavy with a sense of foreboding. The space opened up into a hidden chamber, walls lined with old photographs of the family that once lived there. Their faces stared back at me, hollow and haunting, trapped in time. And there, among the relics of the past, I found her, a small, dusty doll, tattered and worn. I could feel her presence enveloping me, the weight of her sorrow palpable. With trembling hands, I picked it up, a connection forming between us. As I held the doll, the chamber filled with a warm light, and I could see the girl standing beside me, her expression transforming from sorrow to relief. "Thank you," she whispered, her voice echoing like a melody through the darkness. "You set me free." In that moment, I understood. The girl was not a malevolent spirit, but a lost soul, forever trapped by the pain of her past. She needed someone to remember, to acknowledge the darkness that had enveloped her life. As I held the doll tightly, I could feel the heaviness lifting, the air growing lighter as if a great burden had been released. When I returned to the surface, the storm had subsided, and the first rays of dawn broke through the trees. My family was gathered at the top of the hill, oblivious to the horrors I had faced. But I felt a profound sense of peace wash over me, as if the connection between our worlds had been restored. Years passed, and the memory of the little girl became a cherished part of my family's history. We would gather every year to remember her, sharing stories of Willow Hill and the spirits that still lingered. The darkness that once enveloped our family faded, replaced by the warmth of shared memories and love. The hill stood silently, a testament to the passage of time. The ruins of the houses remained, overgrown with ivy, but the presence of the little girl felt different now, lighter, less haunting. I knew that she had found her peace, forever watching over the hill and the family that had once been bound by fear. Willow Hill transformed into a sanctuary, a place of remembrance where laughter echoed instead of sorrow. The haunting had shifted, morphing into a guardian spirit that watched over the land. My family continued to visit, sharing stories of our experiences and the bond we had formed with the girl. As I grew older, I often returned to the remnants of the houses, finding solace in the memories that lingered. The locket remained a cherished artifact, a reminder of the connection we shared with the past. The girl had taught me that even in darkness, there is light, and that love transcends the boundaries of life and death. And so, the tale of Willow Hill continues to be whispered among generations, a story of hope, redemption, and the power of remembering those who came before us.